So thank you for attending and being part of the series. This is the CYC's premier racing series, and so it's great to see such a great fleet competing. And we wish you all best racing and good luck with the conditions and your boats and safe sailing. One thing I just wanted to point out and note is the club is working hard to try to bring these races to our members, our friends and our families. We introduced obviously the tracker, which you'll all have picked up, and we're trying to display more information in the club constantly about what we're doing and what's happening out at sea and where the races are going. Our social media has been hopefully continuously improved, and we're updating our website constantly as well. So any information coming from yachts at sea through our media was always appreciated, and we're trying to promote sailing, and particularly blue water sailing, to the public. So I also just wanted to introduce you to who probably most of you would know, David Jordan. He is our new race committee chair, and he's going to be taking things forward from here. So I'll hand over now to Dave. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I acknowledge this is a briefing, so I'll endeavour to be brief. We've had separate presentations and briefings for the Noakes Sydney to Gold Coast, and we will have for the Rolex Sydney to Hobart. They form useful bookends for the Audi Centre Sydney Blue Water Point Score series. Let's not forget we've got 4 races in between: Flinders, Newcastle Bass Island, Cabbages and Bird Island. To safety first, in no particular order, I'd just like to take a couple of moments to talk about training. I'm conscious that we often undertake formal first aid or sea safety survival training, and we're all the better for it. But I'd also encourage us all to consider maintaining a regime of organic on-board training that is ongoing. A very basic short tabletop session on emergency procedures, for example, can be quite useful and has a number of intangible benefits as well. Perhaps even consider some of the service providers in the industry who can maybe facilitate some of that training for you. A strong evidence base individually and collectively of our on-board and on-water training is crucial to not only our emergency response but also to our capability as a whole in undertaking blue water racing in a safe manner. CYC is often looked at as a benchmark for blue water sailing, and that's largely driven by the competitors' on-water behaviour and culture. At the same time, I'm conscious I need to provide you the framework and support to allow you to ensure that that training is met. If there's something I can do or that we need to do as a club and organising authority to help with training and to make sure your proficiencies are at an optimum level, then please let me know. Man overboard. You may be aware of some man overboard incidents in recent times. Appreciate there are others, but I'd just like to highlight a few to place some context. 2 in the Volvo, 1 in Clipper, and a couple here in Sydney in local racing. A couple of points I want to draw out. Could I ask you to review, please, your tether procedures and encourage a culture of positive reinforcement when it comes to clipping on? Secondly, in relation to man overboard, if you develop a defect on equipment or systems, for example, you're missing a life ring, you have some degradation in your engine performance, batteries might be low, there might be electronic problems. For example, could I ask you to please ensure that we don't just note that, but we also absorb what ramifications that has for our man overboard recovery procedures. make sure we factor and cater for the fact that we mightn't have something available to us. Endurance and sustainment. Blue Water Point Score races technically cover 3 seasons. The races also vary in length and geography. Weather may turn the short distance races into longer races by time. Late in the year, when the air temperature might be quite warm, the water temperature could be still quite cold. Please consider endurance or sustainment factors as a crucial positive element of your overall performance equation, and not just as a hindrance to your performance goals. Those sort of things seem to come a lot easier when we think of them through a positive lens. Medical emergency reporting, and it's something we've learned from other races. In particular here we picked up something from the Newport Bermuda race. And we've found, unsurprisingly, that management of medical emergency seems to flow a lot more positively when there's a structured framework to report. To help that, we'll soon have a single-page aid memoir for medical emergency reporting available at the Sailing Office. And this will help provide you with a framework for reporting and for us as a framework of enabling assistance to you. I'd encourage your use of this medical emergency reporting aid memoir when you get it. A couple of administrative matters, crew details. We've become much more proficient and consistent with ensuring the actual crew embarked and that's been advised to the Sailing Office actually align. Thank you very much. So the first level of crew detail is encouraging. We're not quite getting that next level of detail and the following level of detail that we need though. By way of example, one crew member's details has an address where we know the person has not lived for 10 years. More importantly though, is then the next of kin details. Quite often we have name and number, but nothing else underneath it. Could I ask you, pardon the pun, to have a little bit of a spring clean of those details? That'd be much appreciated. Crew disclaimer. We've made some refinements to the crew disclaimer. I'd ask you to note important issues to acknowledge that are included in there, including things such as the need to comply with World Sailing's betting and anti-corruption code. And finally, some operational matters. Communications, on behalf of David Kellett, draw your attention to a few points. VHF. As a general observation, our monitoring of Channel 16 has been suboptimal. There's been some occasions where we're talking to a boat by other means, only to have a boat right next door being unable to be raised on VHF. Could I also ask for your focus, not just on the general monitoring, but on specific monitoring, such as when we're passing Port Kembla and listening to the various port control channels. Sat phones. Could I also ask for your focus on ensuring a good listening in respect of sat phones? And more importantly, we're still maturing with our overall sat phone regime, and some of the data that's provided has been inconsistent, particularly when we're doing things like rentals and we end up with the account number, not the phone number. It makes it difficult to communicate with sat phone. It is improving, but I would ask your attention on it, please. Could you kindly note that for the Audi Centre Sydney Blue Water Point Score races, the 4 in-between races, the different sked times, 0005, 0805 and 1605, different for Gold Coast and Hobart. The trackers, I believe you've collected those at sign-in. Please note that we'll be having them on all the Blue Water Point Score races, as the Rear Commodore pointed out. Please note also the need to return them. Tuesday, close of business, I think, is the time limit. I think they're about $2,000 each, just encouraging you. Notwithstanding the availability of trackers and an increased situational awareness that we have of the fleet, I would remind you, please, in these interim races to call in a Beam Hornby light on your way inbound. That's still extant. And a late parish notice. Anyone with Expedition software who'd be interested in some testing or some non-invasive trial stuff with data, could I ask you to see Stephen after the briefing, please, just to facilitate a little bit more information gathering and some software improvement for our tracker side of the house. That's all I have to present to you this evening. I'm happy to take any questions now or offline afterwards. Thanks, Sam.
Thanks a lot, Dave. Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone, for attending. I just also would like to thank Justine and the committee organising the races, particularly the team back of house with Stephen, and everyone else involved in the club that gets the boats berthed here on the water, organises things around all of these races. And particularly also, I'd just like to thank everyone for being in the fleet and entering these races as well. It does give us an extremely competitive group of boats out there, and it does put us in a position where the club has got the best blue water point score, best blue water racing being conducted. So yeah, thank you to everyone, and yeah, I hope you enjoy your racing. Thank you.